Hello and welcome to webinar Kecemerlangan SPM Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak, jointly organised by Sarawak State Education Department and Padawan Education District Office. Let me introduce myself. I am Cikgu Kelvin Anak Mikeng and I'm the moderator for speaking session. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the speaker for this session. This speaker is a teacher from Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching. She has a vast experience in teaching English language and she's Cikgu Nancy Anak Darius or Darius. She's been teaching since 2010 and she is now the head panel of English panel in her school since 2020 and also a Guru Cemerlang Bahasa Inggeris DG48. Now, other than that, she was the SPM English Resource Teacher for PPD Betong in 2016. She's also the SPM Resource Teacher for Semarak Kasih Program for JPN Sarawak in 2021. And she is the SPM English Language Paper Workshop Speaker for schools throughout Sarawak, SMK Lake, SMK Bau, SMK St. Columba Miri, and SMK Riau Miri. Now, without further ado, let me invite Cikgu Nancy to share with us about speaking paper.
Hello and good afternoon. So, welcome to webinar Kecemerlangan SPM, Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri JPN Sarawak, and also Pejabat Pendidikan Daerah Padawan. So, today I'm Cikgu Nancy from Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching. I will be talking about speaking paper 999/3. Okay, but before that, we're going to look at the 4 components in SPM paper, which is reading, writing, speaking, and also listening. But as my focus today is speaking paper, so we will go through one by one on how to score at least C1 in English in speaking paper. Okay, so speaking paper, it is compulsory for all SPM candidates. It is constitutes 25% parts of the overall grade. Okay, so speaking paper, it is in pair format, meaning 2 students for each session. So for this one, I would advise the teachers or the school to pair up the students according to their ability, meaning don't go according to the name list. So the subject teacher, you must know your students' ability. If the weak one, you should pair up with a slightly better students, and the best student pair up with the excellent one, so that they can help each other. If you go according to the name list, this will either kill the student or make sure, or it will let one student be better than the other. So we do not want that. So you have to pair your student based on their ability. Okay. So as for the duration, it is only for 13 minutes. If it exceeds 13 minutes, then it will be more than enough, because 13 minutes is quite okay, even for an excellent student. So do not exceed 13 minutes, right? So there are 3 parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3. So we will go to each part one by one. Yeah? So for part 1, this is individual response. Okay, part 2, individual long term, and part 3, it is a discussion between both candidate A and candidate B. So as for the CFR main focus, we are focusing on B1 and B2. However, there are good students who manage to score C1 for speaking tests. If they manage to score C1, it means that their marks is either 23 out of 24 or full mark. 24 marks. Okay, so we go through the first part, part 1. So part 1, you have to give a short and simple answer. Okay, for example, the first question the interlocutor will ask you is, what is your name? Okay, so you have to answer, you have to give short and simple answer. For example, this one, short and simple answer, for example, what is your name? So you just have to answer, my name is Ares Vachirawit. Do not go and give a very complicated answer. Okay, for example, this one, my father is such a huge fan of Cristiano Ronaldo that the day I was born, he named me after the greatest football player in the entire universe. So that is my name, Cristiano Ronaldo anak Jim. This one is not encouraged because it happened in our school with my own students lah. They like to try to impress the interlocutor and the assessor, so they will give very long answers, even for simple question like this. Okay, for part 1, you just go straight to the point. You no need to beat around the bush. This is what I always told my students. Okay, for part 2, this is where you are given a topic. For example, this one, my favorite celebrity. Okay, so you have to answer according to the given questions or the prompts. Usually there will be 4. For example, this one, favorite celebrity. You should mention about who is your favorite celebrity, what is the celebrity famous for, why do you admire that particular celebrity, and whether you like to be a famous celebrity in the future, why or why not. So you have to answer all given questions, all 4. All right. And then for the extra question, for example, if this one is for candidate A, for candidate B, you will be given an extra question about the same topic. So you have to answer it simple and short. Okay, simply answer it in short and straight to the point sentence. 1 or 3 sentences should be sufficient enough. Okay, you don't need to go and elaborate your answer because you will be asked another question later on. Okay, so for part 2, you have to always remember, candidates, all SPM candidates, you have to remember to use cohesive devices when you answer the questions. For example, firstly, secondly, next, apart from that. Okay, and then you have to go according to the appropriate sequence. You cannot jump your answers from question number 4, you answer it first, and then the first question you answer it in the middle. No, you have to go according to the appropriate sequence, and then you have to elaborate your points. You cannot simply answer one question, one sentence, one question, one sentence. At least you have to elaborate your points. For example, why do you admire the celebrity? Then you give your reasons lah, at least 3 reasons, right? Give ample examples to support your answers. For example, why do you love the celebrity? Then you mention because he is very good in dancing. He has a very angelic voice. Then you give examples to support your answers. And then, this is where students, they always forget about this. Number 5, you have to end your answer with a simple sentence. That is all for my answer, thank you. Because if you don't say this, the interlocutor will assume that you have more to say for your answer. So if you think your answer ends there, then you mention this sentence. That is all for now. No, that is all for my answer, thank you. This is for part 2. Okay. So moving on to part 3. Part 3 is the most difficult one lah. Okay. So you will be given a question like this. Okay. Advantages of using smartphones. You will be given 6 points. Right, both of you. Okay, candidate A and candidate B. So for this one, usually you will be given 20 seconds to think about your answer before you start giving your answers. Okay. However, if you are not ready, you ask for extra time to think from the interlocutor. The interlocutor is usually your teachers, right? They will not be that cruel. They will not tell you that, okay, 20 seconds is up, speak now. No. Okay. If my students, I will ask them, if you are ready, then you can start. If you are not ready, do not start yet. Okay, because this is your SPM. This is not about your school exam. This is for your SPM, for your future. All right. So you take enough time to think of your answers before speaking. And then there are 6 points, right? So you can choose to talk on either 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points each. Meaning candidate A, if you choose to speak only on 1 point, you may do so. Okay? If let's say candidate B, you want to choose 3 points. You can speak on 3 points. There is no rules in speaking tests where the candidates must speak 3 points each. No. It depends on you, depends on the student. If you have points, for example, you can speak confidently 3 points, then you choose 3 points. But if you can only speak for 1 point with enough elaboration, enough examples, you are very confident, then you choose 1 point only. Right? For example, the given here, candidate A, you can choose 3 points, candidate B, 2 points. It doesn't really matter, as long as you choose at least 1 point. Okay? For the weaker one, okay, the weaker students, the A2 students, the A1 students, you can choose 1 point each. It's okay. It doesn't, if you only choose 1 point, they will not deduct your marks. Right? So you have to choose the one you are most confident to speak about. For example, this one, advantages of using smartphones. Maybe you can only speak on the topic to release our stress. Then you choose that point only. Then you can elaborate, you can give examples to support your answers. But if you can choose, if you can talk about emergency, strengthen relationships, make shopping easier, then you choose 3 points. Okay? But the key word is here, take enough time to think of your answers. Do not, when you see the question right, 5 seconds after that, you start talking. No. Okay? Take your time first, especially for part 3. Right? Alright, so we move on to the assessment. Okay? So the assessment, as you know, I think your teachers already explained this in your class. There will be 2 teachers during the speaking test. The first one is the interlocutor. The interlocutor will be the one asking questions, and usually it will be your own English teacher. And then we have the assessor. The assessor will sit behind the interlocutor, not behind, next to the interlocutor. And then the assessor will not say anything. He or she will sit there and just listen to you speak. The interlocutor will be the one doing the speaking. Alright? So in terms of the assessment, the assessor will assess all candidates based on grammar, vocabulary, and also communicative achievement. As for the interlocutor, he or she will assess you overall. Overall spoken performance. Okay. For example, this one. So assessor, 18 marks, 6 marks for grammar, 6 for vocab, 6 for CA, communicative achievement, and the interlocutor 6 marks. Meaning your own English teacher will give you maximum 6 marks. So here, I would like to encourage all the English teachers out there, if you are the interlocutor for your own school, please do not be too strict when you give marks to your own students. If your students can speak English, then why do you punish them by giving them very low marks? Alright? Okay, for assessor, so the assessor will assess every candidate based on these 3 criteria. First is grammar. Your ability to use grammar accurately, consistent, and also relevant. Alright? So meaning when you speak, your grammar must be on point. Okay? In terms of your vocabulary, for part 1, you can use simple vocab. Because part 1 is just, you can say that it's the warming up session. So you don't have to use all these bombastic words. Okay? But for part 2, you can start to use a more advanced vocab. And for part 3, this is where you must use more proficient, wider lexical range or less common lexis. Okay? So less common lexis, in other words, it is synonyms. It's not difficult words, but it is words that we don't usually use in our daily conversation. Okay? But it's not difficult words. It's not these very advanced words. It's just that words that we don't use every day. For example, happy. We always use happy, right? We don't use delighted. We don't use jovial. But all of these are less common like this. For happy, okay. And CA, communicative achievement, this is where students will be assessed for the ability to be engaged in the discussion, whether they can be natural, there is no hesitation, there's no pauses, meaning they are very comfortable in giving the answers, they are very comfortable in speaking, then they will get full mark for CA, right? As for the interlocutor, okay, the interlocutor will assess the student's ability first to understand the questions, meaning when the interlocutor gives you the questions, right, you can understand what is the question and you don't need the interlocutor to rephrase the question, okay. You can respond to the questions, you can contribute during the discussion, and you can keep the interaction going, meaning that you are there for the discussion. If you just keep quiet during the entire session, so the interlocutor would deduct your marks from 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 until 0. Alright, so as long as you understand the question, you can respond, you can contribute, and you can keep the interaction going, then you will be okay. Alright, okay. So I have here an example of a speaking test that I did with my students. Okay, so we will watch the video first, and then we will go according to the answers. So we will see what are the marks for each candidates. Okay. Hi, good afternoon to both of you. Okay, my name is Madam Nancy, and first of all, I would like to know something about you. Candidate A, what is your name?
My name is Evangeline and I prefer to be called Yen.
Candidate B, what is your name?
My name is Masipuna Baru, but you can call me Cheno.
Call you what?
Cheno.
Cheno.
Yes.
So yeah, where do you live?
I live in Batukawa, just nearby.
And Cheno, what is your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject would be physics.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you about your favorite teacher. So yeah, what is the name of your favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher is Mr. Mani. He teaches English and I like him, I adore him a lot because he is very sophisticated in everything he does.
Right. And Cheno, what about you? Who is your favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher would be Miss Ngan, because she teaches us physics, so I can understand well while she is teaching us.
And yet, what do you like about Mr. Mani?
I like him a lot because he is very understanding as a father. I think it's because he's a father, so everything he says, I think it brings a big impact on me.
And Cheno, how do you honor Miss Ngan?
I honor her by the things that she's done to us, like she care about us while we are weak in class, so he tries to entertain us well.
Alright, so thank you to both of you. So now we shall move on to the second part. Alright, so for the second part, in this part of the test, I'm going to give each of you a topic and I would like you to talk about it on your own for about a minute. You also need to answer a question briefly about your partner's topic. So candidate A, it's your turn. So this is your task.
Thank you very much.
So I would like you to talk about the best birthday present you have received. First, you have some time to think about what you have to say. You are given 20 seconds to prepare. If you are ready, you can start.
My best birthday present that I get from my parents is actually a smartphone because I really never get a chance to a smartphone when I was in primary school, because I envy that my primary school's friends already have their own smartphone. So actually, my father is the one who bought it for me, and with the purpose that it is used for me to learn and to be it used for me to study well and to use it properly when I have a phone. So it's important for me because I agree that smartphone is actually quite pricey and it is not affordable for all people. So I think I should appreciate anything that my parents gave me.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, Ain, what is the best birthday present you have received and why?
Well, just like Ian, I also envied all the students in my school because they had mobile phones and smartphones at such a young age. But that was not what I wanted. What I mainly wanted was a graphics tablet that would allow me to draw digitally, because I love art more than I would love to have a smartphone. So at a young age, that was all that I wanted. And one day, my dad decided to give me one because I did very good for my exam that year.
Thank you. Can I have the paper in? Okay. Now, Ain, your turn. So this is your task.
Thank you very much.
So I would like you to talk about an interesting job that you know. First, you have some time to think about what you have to say. You're given 20 seconds to prepare. You may start if you're ready. Yeah?
Alright, thank you very much. So, a very interesting job that I came across during PKP was NFT artists. Now, NFT artists are artists who draw digitally and post them onto NFT websites, non-fungible token websites. This is in relation to the current economy when it comes to digital economy, and I think that it's very interesting because it shows us that there's progress happening in the world of art and not just the economical world in today's society. So, what you have to do to become an NFT artist is to simply draw and then post it, and it will sell in terms of cryptocurrency. And instead of using actual cash, you will earn money in different forms of currencies that are digital and can be accepted worldwide. I chose this job because personally I am interested in art and I am interested in the current growing economy of our country. I believe that working experience for this job won't be necessary because everyone is able to have the chance to get a job, get income, even without experience beforehand. However, I do believe that if you were to go into a job that requires more skills, such as being a doctor, I believe that then you would need experience for you to do so.
Alright, thank you, Ain. Ian, do you know an interesting job? And why is it interesting to you?
There's an interesting job that I know is a graphic designer. So basically, a graphic designer is actually the one who make any graphics that maybe they will post on social medias that they may use to make graphics on the posters. And also the job actually is quite very high demand nowadays, and that's why I think the youngsters may be interested in these jobs.
Now we are going to go to part 3. I would like you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. The task will have 2 parts. In the first part, you will discuss something with each other for about 2 minutes. Then in the second part, you will have another minute to make a decision together. Alright, so this is your task. Teenagers are interested in different activities. Here is some choice of activities teenagers enjoy nowadays. Okay, you have 20 seconds to get ready. And you may start whenever you are ready.
Recently, I went for bungee jumping, and I find that it's very interesting. And I've just found out that it's not just me finding it interesting. Actually, a lot of teenagers out there also find it interesting, as extreme sport is really thrilling, exhilarating, adrenaline pumping. I mean, which we can overcome our fears by doing extreme sports. So I think it's very interesting, and I understand why teenagers nowadays enjoy extreme sports, despite it's very risky, despite the risk they are taking is very huge. So what do you think, Marcelino?
I agree with you, because some of extreme sport is the best way to express ourselves. It's like we need to be happy, or we need to be thrilling. We will be thrilling with our friends. Like you just say just now about bungee jumping. We can, while we watching our friends do the bungee jumping, we will be laughing, and then
It actually enhance our relationship, right?
Yes.
So in addition, I also think that shopping with friends could also help in relieving our stress, because while we were spending time with our friends, we get to talk with them, we get to share our feelings. So I know why teenagers actually enjoy shopping. So what about you? What do you enjoy doing?
For me, it's hang out with friends, because we can spend more time with our friends, because we can express our feelings, our fears, our problems, and then we can speak with our friends deeply, emotionally, and then I think hang out with friends is the best activities teenagers enjoy.
No man is an island. Everyone needs a friend. Here are some qualities to build a strong friendship and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the tasks, and you are given 20 seconds to prepare. And both of you may start whenever you are ready.
Okay. Now, I think everyone should not stay alone. There must be someone that may guide them in the future. So, I think by building a strong friendship, they should have understanding between one another, because by doing so, they may become more closer to each other, and they maybe can go anywhere together, and they have similar interests as they have something to share about.
I agree with you. Well, in order for you to build a greater understanding of what your friends are, what they're like, you have to become a good listener first. So it is always important for you to listen carefully to what your friends say in order for you to understand them better. And if you are going to be a good listener, it's also important that you are honest with yourself and with your friends. It's not that great to be a great listener, but in the end, you're only going to end up lying to yourself or to your friends.
I think by building a strong friendship, we should have our willingness to help one another anytime when needed. It is important to be aware of each other and be known very well with each other, so that they can be together for a long time, and they also must be supportive between each other, so that they can become more closer. And also, by building a strong friendship, the partners must be more trustworthy among each other.
I agree with you. Look at us, both of us. I trust you and you trust me. And I think that those are one of the great qualities that are in our friendship. And I am willing to help you anytime when needed.
Alright, so Now you have a minute to decide together on which is the most interesting activity for teenagers.
Okay, I think we have to agree on extreme sport
Yes.
because both of us talked about it just now. Actually, I think it's a very good way for teenagers to actually relieve their stress. One, and the next is they get to overcome their fears. Okay, for me, I am very afraid of heights. So by trying out bungee jumping, I actually feel like, wow, the world is mine.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you?
Yes, I agree with you. Extreme sports like we do rock climbing, right? So rock climbing, we must climb a wall of rock that very high, right? So as you said just now, we can overcome our fears.
Now let's hear your opinion on this. We start from Ain first. Everyone needs a friend. To what extent is friendship important to you and why?
Friendship was not something that I saw the importance of because I thought, well, anyone can simply live if they work hard enough or if they have enough money or enough resources. But I was wrong, especially during COVID-19 when we had no one at all. When I lived in isolation, I felt so lonely when I couldn't meet anyone and all I could do was talk through a phone. That was when I realized that my friends texting me every day, attempting to video call me and to check up on me, that was when I realized that friends are truly important in today's society.
Thank you. Ian, same question. To what extent is friendship important to you and why?
I think friendship is very important to people nowadays because it is hard to get a good friend, and most of the teenagers nowadays manage to get unable to manage to get a friend, even though they are more sociable, they are more friendly towards each other, but a strong friendship is something else, which means that the friends that they label as a friend to them is someone who important and who very trustworthy to them.
Alright, so you have watched the video on the test. So these are the commentaries. Okay, but before that, the 4 students just now, they are Form 5 students from Avicenna batch, because in our school we name every batch from Form 1. So for our Form 5 this year, it is Avicenna. Okay, so 5 students, max 5 Form 5 students. We have Evangeline, usually I call her Ye, and then Marcelino, Ain, and also Ian. Okay, so we look at the first pair, which is Evangeline, or we call her Ye actually. So Ye and Marcelino. So for grammar, vocab, CA, communicative achievement, and also overall spoken performance, as you can see, Evangeline or Ye, she did slightly better than Marcelino. Okay, Marcelino, he scored average 4, 4, 5, 6, 19. If Ye, she scored 5, 5, 5, but for overall spoken performance, she scored 6, so 21. If, based on my experience, 21 is considered as B2 in CFR standard band. Okay, 19 is B1. All right, so we go through each component one by one. So for grammar, Ye, she scored 5. She can communicate with a good degree of accuracy. Okay, in terms of her grammar, there are not many errors actually. There are a few errors here and there, but she can cover it up because she's very confident. So unless you listen carefully, then you can detect her mistakes. All right. For Marcelino, he shows a good degree of control, and he attempted some complex grammatical structures. If you look at his answers, right, for part 3, yeah, this is his answer. It's like we need to be happy or we need to be thrilling. This is where the grammar is already a bit out of the place. You will be thrilling with our friends. If we don't look at the grammar, we do understand what he meant, but because we are looking at the grammar one by one, so you will be thrilling with your friends is not quite acceptable in English language. Okay, so as he said, like you just said just now about bungee jumping, you can, while we're watching our friends do the bungee jumping, we'll be laughing and so this is where his grammar it went down from 6 to 4. Okay, so this is why you should be practicing the appropriate English language with your friends so that you don't have this kind of problems when you do your speaking tests. Okay, so in terms of vocab, is slightly better than Marcelino. She can use a wide range of appropriate vocab, and Marcelino, he use everyday vocabulary. Okay, for example, she said actually a lot of teenagers out there also find it interesting as extreme sports is really thrilling. Less common lexis there, exhilarating, less common lexis, adrenaline pumping. So this is we considered as less common lexis. As for Marcelino, it's very everyday vocab, meaning the vocabulary that you use every day. But this is for part 3. So that is why he scored 4, because for part 3, you should be able to use more advanced words. Okay. For communicative achievement, she scored 5. Marcelino also 5. Okay. Even when in terms of grammar and vocab, Marcelino he scored not as good as but he can express himself with little hesitation. Meaning even though his grammar and vocab is not that good compared to but he always try to speak up. Little hesitation. This is why he scored 5. Okay. If as you can see, she's very confident. She can initiate, she can maintain, develop, and close a conversation with ease. That's why both of them scored 5. As for overall spoken performance, both score 6. This is the interlocutor marks. If I were the interlocutor for both of them, I would give them 6 because they understand the question. They do not need any prompting or support. Okay, I do not have to rephrase my question, and they can maintain and develop the discussion without any help from each other. Because there will be students who cannot speak or having difficulties to find the right words to speak. So my advice, if my own students, I would tell my students to help each other out. If your friends are having difficulties to find words to express the ideas, the other friend should help your friends. Okay, because there is no rule saying that when your friend, for example, candidate A, candidate B, if candidate B is having problem, there is no rule saying candidate A should not say anything. Candidate A should help candidate B, and the marks will go to candidate A actually. So if you have the chance to help your friends, help your friends. Okay, do not let your friends die alone. You should help each other out. All right. Okay, next is Ain and Ian. Okay, Ain Jamila and Ian. So Ain, as you can listen from the video just now, Ain is perfect. Ain, she's very good in terms of speaking English fluently. So Ain, she scored a full mark, 24. Ian, same like he scored 21. Okay, grammar vocab CA 5 marks, overall spoken performance 6. Ain, she scored all perfect marks, 6, 6, 6, 6, 24. Okay, so in terms of grammar, when you listen to Ain, right, she consistently maintains a high degree of grammatical accuracy. The words, in terms of grammar, right, you don't actually listen to any errors because she speaks in a very moderate pace. She doesn't speak too fast, too slow, and she pronounces each word accurately. Okay, so that you can you can listen to her and you know that she doesn't really make any grammar errors or grammar mistakes. For Ian, he did make some mistake here and there, but because he's very confident, if you look at the video, right, so he can communicate with a good degree of accuracy. So 6 for Ian, 5 for Ian. Okay. So for vocab, as you can hear from the video, Ian, she can use very good words or less common lexis. I mean, in terms of her vocabulary, it's quite advanced compared to Ian. All right. For example, isolation. We don't use the word isolation a lot, especially for our students, right? But Ian, she used the word isolation. For example, this is her answer. I could do was talk through the phone, attempting to video call me, to check up on me. So you don't usually use these words in your daily conversation, right? So because of this, Ian, she scored 6. And Ian, he can use a good vocab, but slightly not as good as Ian. Okay, so Ian, he scored 5. Ian, she scored 6. CA, Ian 6, of course, and Ian 5. Ian, there's a little bit hesitation, as you can listen from the video, a lot of pausing, okay? But in terms of giving ideas, he doesn't need any prompting or any help from either his partner or the interlocutor, okay? Ian, she can express herself spontaneously with little obvious searching for expressions, meaning you don't see in the video that she's looking for words to say, right? Like everything is here, and then she just express it out effortlessly, right? Okay, so in terms of overall spoken performance, both get 6, just like Yet and Marcelino just now. They do understand the questions, they do not need any prompting, and they can develop and maintain the conversation. They can discuss together, okay, without any help from the interlocutor. So both scored 6. Okay, so this is the score for all 4 of them. Ain 24, Ian 21, Yet 21, and Marcelino 19. If according to SPM level, 24 is C1. C1, not many students manage to score C1. Okay, unless you are really good in your in terms of speaking English. For example, right, my student last year, because I was the interlocutor, I have 2 students, okay, both girls. When they were doing part 3, they were actually as if they were talking at their room at the hostel. So it was really natural, okay, because they are enjoying themselves. They enjoy talking to each other. So one person, they score really good marks for speaking tests last year. Okay, all right. So enough on the tests. I'm going to give you the tips on how to score 20 to 24 marks, because based on SPM last year, right, when we look at the result, we can say that if students do well in speaking tests, speaking and writing actually, it will contribute to a better grades in the final result. Meaning if you score poorly in your reading or your listening, but you do really well in your writing and speaking, you will get higher grade for your final result. This is based on my observation or my analysis. When I look at my students' result, this is how I see it. So speaking, it helped you a lot to get a better grade in your SPM. Either it's A-, A solid, or A+. Right? So this is the tips on how to score 20 to 24 marks in your speaking test. First, you have to always remember that speaking and writing, it is quite similar actually, in my opinion, okay? Because the way you answer your writing, right, it's the same like when you want to answer the question in your speaking test. It's just that speaking, you have less time to prepare because you are given, like, for example, in your SPM exam, you're only given 20 seconds. But in your writing exam, you have 1 hour, 30 minutes to plan 3 essays. But in terms of the technique and methods, it is actually quite similar, speaking and writing. So if you can write really well, okay, in your writing paper, you should not have any problem in your speaking test. So either when you speak, right, you actually learn how to write, and then when you write, you actually learn how to speak. So it is quite similar in very interesting ways, actually. Okay, so the first tips, this one, you also have this in your writing, right? Piece. You have to have your points, you have to have your elaboration, you have to have your example, and then you have to sum up your points. This one in your writing, you also have this one, right? And so for speaking tests, you also have to have this. You have to have your point, you have to elaborate your point, you have to give examples, and then you have to sum up your points. If you manage to do this, then you will get higher marks for your CA, communicative achievement. For example, Ain, okay, this is Ain's answer. When she was asked interesting occupation that she knows, she mentioned about NFT artists. Okay, so her elaboration, this is what she said: simply draw and post it, and it will sell in terms of cryptocurrency instead of using actual cash. The example she gave, a job that requires more skills, such as being a doctor, and the conclusion, she said, I believe that when you would need experience for you to do so. So this is where the piece, your writing skills come in handy when you are doing speaking tests. Okay, you have to have your point, your elaboration, your example, and your conclusion. So if you used to write this if you used to use this technique in your writing, then you should not have any problem to use the same technique in your speaking tests. All right. Second one, expression for discussion. This one, especially for part 3, okay? Because in part 3, you are discussing with your partner, right? You are discussing with candidate A and candidate B, you are discussing together. So you should use these phrases, okay? When you finish with your points, then you ask your partner, what do you think about point number 2? What is your opinion? You have to use this, okay? And then giving opinions, instead of suddenly give your opinion, you should first start your sentence with, in my opinion, or I believe, or in my point of view. There are so many ways to give opinions. If you want to agree with your partner or your friend, you can use these phrases, okay? Instead of using the same thing like I agree with you, or throughout the session, you can change the sentence using the given example here. Like, I wouldn't say it better, I couldn't agree more. Or if you're disagreeing with your partner, then you use these phrases. I think the opposite. I have a different opinion about it. This one is for part 3, okay? So mildly agreeing, this one also. You want to disagree with your friend, but you are afraid to hurt their feelings, so you use this. That's not really how I see it, but I do. For example, the question is about the use of smartphone to release stress. So you don't believe that using smartphone can release your stress, so you can start your sentence by one of these phrases. For example, that's not really how I see it. I don't see phone can release your stress, but it will add more to your stress because you tend to spend more time on your phone compared to doing something, other things that are beneficial to you. Then you start giving your points. All right. For example, and Marcelino just now. So she asked Marcelino, so what do you think, Marcelino? So this is what we say as expressing opinions. Okay, so Marcelino said, I agree with you. This is what I said. If you have this in your speaking test, then it is considered to be a discussion. Okay, it's not individual work. This is for part 3. Yeah. Third one, cohesive devices. In writing, you have to use cohesive devices. In speaking also, you have to use cohesive devices. This one. Okay. If, for example, the teachers out there, the English teachers out there, I really encourage you to let your student be comfortable in using cohesive devices, because you will use cohesive devices in your writing, So in your speaking test also. Okay, so you have to be familiar with different cohesive devices to help you, especially in part 2 and part 3, because you are giving your points, right? So you have to use cohesive devices. There are so many cohesive devices, right? For example, Ain here, she only used 2, but it's enough, okay, because at least she used 2. This is considered to be simple connectors, but still she tried to use cohesive devices. She used however and such as. As for she managed to use 3, in addition, while, and so. Okay, so if you manage to use cohesive devices in your answers, right, your answers will be more complete, okay, compared to if you don't use cohesive devices. So when you use cohesive devices in your writing, make sure you use cohesive devices in your speaking test also. All right. And the last one, less common lexis. Okay, less common lexis, it refers to any vocabulary that examiners do not expect most candidates to use. Okay, that's why I said just now. It doesn't mean that it's difficult words. It doesn't mean that it's very bombastic words. It just means that it's not something you use in your everyday daily conversation. All right, so this is what we say as less common lexis. So for example, Ian, instead of using expensive, he used the word pricey. I agree that smartphone is actually quite pricey. So usually we will use the word expensive, right? But here Ian, he used the word pricey, less common lexis. Okay. For she used the word thrilling, exhilarating, and adrenaline pumping, instead of only using the word challenging or it's a very fun activity. So when you heard these words, you know that it's really like making you feeling very nervous, but at the same time feeling very excited. So thrilling, exhilarating, and adrenaline pumping is considered to be less common lexis. Okay, so there are many less common lexis. As long as you just type, if you Google it, you just type synonyms and you will have different less common lexis. Okay, or you can read the dictionary to find the less common lexis for words that you might use in your essay. But for writing, it is a must to use less common lexis. Same like in speaking tests, you must use less common lexis. All right. So this is the last part of my session, the do's and the don'ts. All right. I have been involved in speaking tests for 2 years for the new format. So these are the things that I want the student to do and I don't want the student to do, the do's and the don'ts. All right. Okay.
Throughout the speaking test, please don't look at the floor, the ceilings, or be distracted with anything. Please always keep good eye contact with your interlocutor. During the speaking test, please do not whisper to each other while talking. While talking, please keep your voice loud and clear for your interlocutor to hear you clearly. Throughout the speaking test, please do not show any impolite facial expressions. Please always keep a smile on your face while talking to each other or to your interlocutor. During the speaking test, please do not conquer the whole session. Do help out your friend who is in need. During the English speaking test assessment, do not sit like a gangster. Instead, sit politely.
So much on like who knew if we ever broke up I'd never be sad.
So that is the tips and the tips for the do's and the don'ts. Besides that, when you go for your speaking test, right, do not be nervous. It's your own teacher, your interlocutor is your teacher. Smile, don't forget to greet your teachers first before you start. Say good morning, ask whether you can sit or not. Okay, do not be nervous. All right? If you are nervous, then everything that you try to memorize or try to do during the speaking test will go out from your brain. Okay, so don't be nervous. All right, so I guess that's it for my session. But before I end my session, I would like to give a special thanks to Avicenna 1923 of SM Science Kuching Science School, the Form 5 students of Science School this year, for your help for this session actually. So I just want to say thank you to Avicenna, and that's it. So thank you so much, and I wish you all the best to all SPM candidates batch 2006. All the best in your exam, and good luck.
So that's the end of the speaking video for SPM Paper 3. What a thorough and clear explanation given by Madam Nancy. Yeah, so now it's time for Q&A. If you have any question, please type in your question in the chat box. So Madam Nancy will answer your question. Okay, is there any question? If no, then these are the questions that we have prepared, the common question from students and teachers about speaking tests. So the first one, Madam Nancy, this is from a student. Am I allowed to ask the interlocutor for the meaning of unfamiliar words or phrases, unfamiliar phrases?
Alright, thank you, Mr. Kelvin. Okay, so for the first question, students are not allowed to ask the interlocutor for any help, whether to ask for meanings of words or phrases. So what you can do, my advice is, you should rely to your partner. Anything happens during your speaking test, your partner is your savior. So anything you have to ask help from your partner, not the interlocutor.
All right. Second question is, for part 3 discussion, can I use any current slang in my speaking test? Words such as healing, slay, stand, etc.
It's a good question because our students nowadays, they are very influenced by the slangs, those that are used usually in social media conversations. So no, you're not allowed to use this kind of slangs. For example, just like the one given by Mr. Kelvin just now, because you have to understand that we are using the British curriculum. So we need to follow the English language just like the British people. So instead of using all these slangs, you should use proper English vocabulary. Alright, try to familiarize yourself with the vocabs that are accepted in our curriculum. Okay, next question.
All right, next question. Can we use other languages during the preparation time?
Alright, so during the speaking test, you are given 20 seconds to discuss with your partner before you can give your answer. So during this discussion time, you are allowed to use your mother tongue or your native language. For example, you can use Malay language, you can use Bidayo language, you can use Mandarin in that 20 seconds only. After 20 seconds is over, then you should switch back to using English language.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. So the next question is by another question from student. What if I suddenly become nervous to speak when I see the interlocutor and examiner's faces?
Right, by right, students should not be nervous when you look at the interlocutor's face, because that is your own teacher. The assessor may be, the interlocutor should not be. But if you do feel nervous when you look at your teacher's face, what you can do is try to imagine that the interlocutor is someone that you know. Or if you still feel nervous after that, then again you rely to your speaking partner. If you feel nervous, you look at your speaking partner and then smile at each other so that you can ease that nervousness that you're feeling at that moment, and then try to take a deep breath and then just continue with your speaking test. Right? Okay, next question.
All right, so if we don't have any more questions from the audience, so this will be the last question that we have prepared. Now the question is, what if my partner, speaking partner, doesn't want to respond during the discussion part? What should I do in that situation?
Alright. Again, before the speaking test, just like I mentioned in my presentation just now, teachers, you need to partner up your students based on their abilities. But if during the speaking test suddenly one of the students do not have the idea to speak, they just freeze. So my advice would be, if your partner doesn't want to say anything, or they do not have any ideas to talk about at a time, you just keep on giving your answers and try to help your partner. You can ask them by asking for their opinion. For example, you can ask, for example, your friend's name is Abu. Then you ask, Abu, what do you think? Do you agree with me? You try to keep the conversation going on. Okay, because first you cannot conquer the session by yourself. But if your friend is not responding, then you have to do whatever you can to make sure the conversation still going on. So, but then even after you ask your friend, okay, what do you think? Can you give your opinion? Still, there's no answer. Then you just keep on giving your answer. Okay, because you have tried your very best, and the assessor and the interlocutor can see that. So I think that is enough to merit you some marks. Right. So I guess I hope that my explanation is clear enough for all the SPM candidates out there. So I think that's it.
Yeah. So that's all for our speaking component. So is there any wish for the students?
Yeah. For speaking tests, I just want to remind everyone to keep on practicing speaking English. Do not try to speak English all the time, starting from today, so that you are familiar with the words. Remember to use quasi devices, last common lexis, and the pronunciation. Okay, you don't have to speak like the orang putih one. As long as people can understand what you're saying, then that's enough. Okay, so all the best, batch 06, and I'll give it back to Mr. Kelvin.
All right, so thank you, Madam Nancy. So that's the end of this speaking component. Thank you.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Cikgu Nancy. Okay, so today I would like to introduce you to our speaker for today for listening session. So our speaker for our listening session for webinar Kecemerlangan SPM organized by Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak and also PPD Padawan. Our speaker is Cikgu Kelvin Anak Mikeng. He's from Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching Utara or Sakura. So Cikgu Kelvin has been teaching since 2008, meaning that this is his 15 years as a teacher. So as an English teacher, Cikgu Kelvin, he joined the International Leaders in Education program, ILAB, a teacher exchange program in the United States of America in 2017. Besides that, his passion include coaching English drama and presentation skills in his school and other schools as well. So I do hope you will learn something from his session, listening paper 999/4.
Hello, I'm Cikgu Kelvin Anak Mikeng, and I'm going to share about the English Language SPM 1119/4 listening paper. in this webinar, I'm going to walk us through the listening component in listening paper. Now, this webinar is divided into 4 parts. The first one is the objective of the listening test, followed by some general tips about the listening skills, the overall format of the SPM listening paper, and unpacking part 1, part 2, 3, and 4 of the listening paper. Now, this objective is taken from the CFR, the SKP for Form 5. In the SKP, the listening test is aligned with the CEFR, which tests students' ability, and based on the Malaysian Ministry of Education, the aspirational target for SPM leavers would be level B2, where they will be equipped with adequate English for them to further the studies. So you can see here the objective from the DSKP. The first one, to understand independently the main ideas in extended text on a wide range of familiar topics and some unfamiliar topics. The second objective is understand independently specific information and details in extended text on a wide range of familiar topics and some unfamiliar topics. The third objective is to recognize independently attitudes or opinions in extended text on a wide range of familiar topics and some unfamiliar topics. This is followed by the fourth objective, which is to understand independently longer or more complex narratives on a wide range of familiar topics and some unfamiliar topics. Number 5, to guess the meaning of unfamiliar words from clues provided by other words and by context on a wide range of familiar topics and some unfamiliar topics. And lastly, to recognize with little or no support typical features at word, sentence, and text level of a range of spoken genre. Now, it's important for teachers and also students to understand the objectives so that they know that the format of the SPM listening paper is definitely aligned from the DSKP. Now, when we look into listening skill, we are also looking at the type of input. Now, first of all, you are going to learn that there are 4 types of input for listening skills. The first one is length. For each section of the test, the duration or length will be different. For example, you have part 1, which is shorter than part 2, part 3, and part 4. Now, the second one is the speed. The speed. Is it too fast or is it slow? For Malaysian standard, it is not too fast and also it's not too slow. Now, next, for times listened, how many times is the audio being played? For listening test, all the audio recording is going to be played twice. And lastly, text being used. This refers to the text type, whether it is interview, conversation, announcement, monologues, and the type of accent, whether it's British accent or Malaysian accent. Moving on, we are looking at skill. Now, what does listening skill involve? First of all, listening skill involves predicting the content. So what do I mean by this? So we need to ask ourselves, what is the text going to be about based on the question? Secondly, listening for G's. Now, you need to listen for G's. And G's here is the essence or central theme of the audio. For example, maybe it's about shopping, maybe it's about sport, maybe it's about the weather, yeah, etc. Now, number 4, you need to detect for signposts. So signposts here would be words such as furthermore, in contrast, however, that will give extra information. For example, furthermore will show you that you're going to take text. It will take you to the next point. And in contrast would be to show that the opposite. Yeah. Now, number 4, listening for details. Now, in this part, we are listening for specific information, which is a large component or aspect of listening paper. And lastly, inferring meaning which means you need to deduce or make conclusion based on the evidence provided to you. So here are the tips that you can use for listening. So before listening, read and understand the question first to know what to expect and also what to focus on while listening. If necessary, underline the keywords in the questions. Thirdly, you need to know the question types and what is expected of you for each part of the test. Maybe for part 3, it's matching. Part 4 is about fill in one word, okay? For part 1 and part 2, you need to circle only one multiple choice. Now, lastly, watch out for distractors. So distractors are, choices that are almost similar to the answer, but it is not the correct answer. What you hear may not be directly the answer to the question given. Now, let's unpack the format of paper 4. Yeah? So paper 4 is divided into 4 parts. Yeah? The weightage of all the papers is 25%. You have listening, speaking, writing, and reading. All of those papers are 25%. So the marks will then be added up for an overall grade which is similar for MUET, TOEFL, and IELTS. Now, the Common European Framework of Reference, or CEFR, is a guideline used to describe language achievements and ability of learners of foreign languages across Europe and increasingly in other countries. Now, there are 30 questions in paper 4, and the duration for the test is 40 minutes. So, in part 1, you are going to listen to people talking in 7 different situations where there are 7 questions. Okay. In part 2, you are going to listen to a conversation and answer 8 questions. Meanwhile, in part 3, you're going to listen to 5 short extracts and choose answers related to the text. And finally, part 4, you are going to listen to text with words left out. Moving on. Now, let's dive in to part 1. In part 1, you have 3 option multiple choice, which is A, B, and C. You only need to choose one. So there are 7 questions with 7 situations, and you only need to choose one answer. Now, in this part of the test, you are going to identify details, such as specific details, main idea or the gist of the audio, the writer's or the author's purpose, the writer's attitude, and meaning of words or lexical. So here is one example of the question. So you're going to listen to an extract of the audio for question 1. So firstly, what you need to do is you are going to be given time, 30 seconds, to look at the question. So I would suggest teachers to teach the students how to underline the question and also the choices here. When you look at the questions, right? Look at the first one. The girl likes movie which. So you underline likes, and then for each part, just underline lots, fight scenes. For B, weekends. C, her imagination. Right? So I'm going to play the audio.
Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully. Question 1. You hear a girl talking about watching movies.
I usually enjoy watching my favorite movies and cartoons on weekends. Action movies are good, but I'm not that keen if there's too much violence. I wouldn't waste any time on horror movies either. I'll have trouble sleeping after watching them. I guess I enjoy watching fantasy the most, where there's magical kingdoms and dragons. As for romance, well, I don't really enjoy that.
All right. So you will hear the audio one more time. Now, the first time when you listen, I would suggest that you listen for details. For the second time when you listen, try to find the answer. So here is a transcript. You are going to refer to the transcript that I provided and look for the word that I have highlighted using red, in red. I'm going to play the audio again.
Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully. Question 1. You hear a girl talking about watching movies.
I usually enjoy watching my favorite movies and cartoons on weekends. Action movies are good, but I'm not that keen if there's too much violence. I wouldn't waste any time on horror movies either. I'll have trouble sleeping after watching them. I guess I enjoy watching fantasy the most, where there's magical kingdoms and dragons. As for romance, well, I don't really enjoy that.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the previous slide. Okay, here you have option A, have lots of fight scenes. Okay, as you can see, it is not being mentioned just now. Number 2, B, are shown on weekends. It is also not stated. Okay, we are not talking about weekend here. And lastly, let her use her imagination. So the key word here is the most, where there's magical kingdoms and dragon. So C is the best choice. Yeah. So we are going to move on to the second question. So first, again, you are going to be given 30 seconds to, no, this time you don't have 30 seconds to look at the question. So what you need to do is to underline, okay, clues or words that might be related to the question.
Question 2. You hear a man talking about his occupation.
I always dreamed of sailing the seven seas when I was small. In my 20s, I saved enough money working as a salesman to travel to Africa. While I was there, I took lots of great pictures, and that's what made me think of a career in photography. Since then, I've done lots of exhibitions, and travel magazines have used my pictures to write about holidays and hotels.
Okay, you are going to hear the audio again, but this time you will refer to the transcript. So the question here, again, when did the man realize he could turn his hobby into his job? So you have the question here, when, and the option, number A, when he was in Africa, B, when traveling all over the world, C, when magazines started publishing his work. So pay attention to specific details.
Talking about his occupation.
I always dreamed of sailing the seven seas when I was small. In my 20s, I saved enough money working as a salesman to travel to Africa. While I was there, I took lots of great pictures, and that's what made me think of a career in photography. Since then, I've done lots of exhibitions, and travel magazines have used my pictures to write about holidays and hotels.
Okay, so here...
Now listen again.
I always dreamed of sailing the seven seas.
Question 2. You hear a man talking about his occupation.
Kenapa masih main audio?
Me think of a career in photography. Since then, I've done lots of exhibitions, and travel magazines have used my pictures to write about holidays.
So based on the audio, you can hear that while I was there. So there refers to in Africa. Yeah? And the next line would be, that's what made me think of a career in photography. So here, when the answer is when he was in Africa, which is a specific details that you need to be able to distinguish from other details. Yeah? Next, question 3, right? So in this question, the last question for part 1, you're going to listen an audio about students. And first thing I want you to do is to underline keywords such as in the question, try to underline love sport, enjoys competing for the option, okay? Use her time well, sociable personality. You never know what the answer is, but at least when you underline, you have a clear idea of what you are looking for. So I'm going to play the audio now.
Question 3. You hear a student talking about the importance of sports.
I love sports. It does take a lot of my time, but it has its benefits. I compete in a lot of sports events and I love meeting new people. When teenagers add sports to their schedule, they are adding a commitment. Since sports have a wide range of benefits, it can be an excellent learning tool for teens, especially in the areas of time management. For me, sports can be such a fun event because I can meet many new people. What we learn as students and athletes can be used later in our lives. I do sports mainly for building friendship.
Okay, you are going to listen to the audio again. Now this time by referring to the transcript, you will find the main idea or specific details.
Question 3. You hear a student talking about the importance of sports.
I love sports. It does take a lot of my time, but it has its benefits. I compete in a lot of sports events and I love meeting new people. When teenagers add sports to their schedule, they are adding a commitment. Since sports have a wide range of benefits, it can be an excellent learning tool for teens, especially in the areas of time management. For me, sports can be such a fun event because I can meet many new people. What we learn as students and athletes can be used later in our lives. I do sports mainly for building friendship.
Okay, so the option here you have she enjoys competing, which is you can also see the word competing. So the audio just now it says I compete in a lot of sports events, okay? But we are looking for the best answer. B, it teaches her to use her time well. You can see here it also being mentioned that a learning tool for teens, especially in the areas of time management. But lastly, it suits her sociable personality. So in this line, you can see that it says here, I do sports mainly. The keyword is mainly for building friendship. So friendship refers to her sociable personality. Okay, so for part 1, you need to look out for distractors. Okay, you need to find specific information and the best answer. Yeah. Now, moving on, we are going to move to part 2. Right. So what is part 2? So in part 2, you have 3 option multiple choice, question 8 to 15. So in this part, it is a longer narrative or informational monologue, yeah, with 8 multiple choice items. So there are 3 option MCQ. You have A, B, and C, and you choose only one, yeah? One answer. So what do we cover in part 2? Yeah? In part 2, candidates have 1 minute to read through the question before listening. So this is longer. You have more time to read. Okay. And then again, underline the keywords in the questions and in the options. Next, the question will follow the order of the text. So don't worry when you listen to the audio, definitely the question will be from number 8, 9, 10, yeah, it's not going to jump from 15, 14 or backwards, yeah. So when you listen for the first time, pay attention to the speaker's main ideas, and the second time you listen up for parts that introduce the topic of each question and find the correct answer to the question. And don't forget to circle your correct answer. So, the word in the option may not be the same as those you hear in the recording. Like I said, what you hear may not be directly the answer to the question given. So, let's try these two questions from the audio for part 2. So, part 2 audio is a bit long, so I'm just going to play the first part of it, right? So, what you need to do when you look at this question, try to read through, because you're given 1 minute to read all the questions, underline question and also the option, okay? For example, here I've underlined for you important aspect, bending, balancing, moving, yeah? This number 9, decide to be the skateboarder. And then for the option, you have seeing the happiness, okay? B, after meeting. C, watching. You can see that I'm underlining all the verbs. Yeah? So now I'm going to play the audio.
You will hear Roy talking about his skateboarding experience. Choose the correct answer, A, B, or C. You now have 1 minute to look at part 2.
Balancing is everything when you ride a skateboard. You have to learn how to bend your knees properly and move your weight around the deck. I remember the first time I saw a pro skateboarder. He came to our new skate park and put on a demo. When I saw him zoom up and down the ramp, I knew I wanted to do that too. I watched as he got ready to do a trick, and when it worked out, I could see the pleasure spread across his face. We all cheered, including the parents and the little kids, but I think I cheered the loudest. When it was over, he threw things to us: caps, t-shirts, wheels, shoes, and even a skateboard with his name on it. I caught a t-shirt and I wear it nearly every day. It's my lucky shirt.
All right, so now you're going to look at the transcript and also listen to the audio one more time. This time you need to choose the answer.
You will hear Roy talking about his skateboarding experience. Choose the correct answer, A, B, or C. You now have 1 minute to look at part 2.
Balancing is everything when you ride a skateboard. You have to learn how to bend your knees properly and move your weight around the deck. I remember the first time I saw a pro skateboarder. He came to our new skate park and put on a demo. When I saw him zoom up and down the ramp, I knew I wanted to do that too. I watched as he got ready to do a trick, and when it worked out, I could see the pleasure spread across his face. We all cheered, including the parents and the little kids, but I think I cheered the loudest.
All right, so based on this question, what is the most important aspect of skateboarding according to Roy? So if you look at the transcript, okay, balancing is everything. Okay, everything. It means it is the most important. Okay, so balancing your body. B is the correct answer. Now look at A, bending your knees. In the transcript, you also have the word, you have to learn how to bend your knees and move your weight around the deck. So moving your weight around, okay, so there's no the deck. Now A and B looks like they are great distractors, yeah? So the best answer is B, balancing, because everything, so everything is important. Number 9, When did Roy decide to be a skateboarder? So A, seeing the happiness of the skateboarder's face. Okay, look at this one. All right, we could see the pleasure spread across his face. But is it the reason why he decided to be a skateboarder? Now, after meeting a pro skateboarder for the first time, again, he saw it, but is it being mentioned in the next line saying that is why he wanted to do it? No, right? Now, look at the third one, watching a skateboarder showing some of his skill. So from this line, you can see, when I saw him zoom up and down the ramp, I knew I wanted to do that too. So this is the clues here. So the answer is C, watching a skateboarder showing some of his skill. Right. So
You
that's
will hear
the end
Roy
of part 2. So we are going to move to part 3. So what is part 3? Now, for part 3, you will listen to 5 short extracts and choose answers related to the text. So here, the type of activity is matching. So there are 5 items to match. 5 short monologue texts of approximately 50 words with 7 options given. So what do we need to do in part 3? So there will be 5 speakers, monologues, okay, and of around half a minute each. So each speaker talks about a related topic. So the purpose of this is you need to listen for G's, attitude, opinions, purpose, feelings, main points, and details. For the text type, it is usually monologues, and you have 30 seconds to read the task before you listen. This is just like part 1. Okay? And then you have to read the option A and G, and you may underline the keyword. So again, the tips, the first time you listen, pay attention to the main idea and mark the option closest to the idea. And for the second time, when you listen, check your answer. Okay? Now, we are going to look at an example of part 3. Okay, so here we have, as you can see, you have the instruction. Okay, the instruction is going to be played after this. You're going to hear the recording twice. Then you have time to underline. So usually, I would advise my student to just underline any keywords. For example, always look for, because you're not going to underline always look for. Definitely, you are going to underline the next words, which is the best bargain. And then buy online, cheaper. Okay, don't let others make up your mind up for you. Right, choose mind up for you. Really necessary for E, not, on impulse. Okay, it could be right, it could be wrong, because you only have 30 seconds to look at it and to underline it. So now you're going to listen for the first time. You're going to match this A to G in this box, 16 to 20. So 2 options will not be used.
Now turn to part 3. You will hear 5 short extracts in which teenagers are talking about shopping habits. Choose from the list A to G what each speaker says. Use the letters only once. There are 2 extra letters which you do not need to use. You now have 30 seconds to look at part 3. Speaker 1.
Before I buy something, I look at the advantages and disadvantages of buying it. I ask myself why I need it, where I'll put it, and what it's for. If I can't give definite answers to these questions, I may want it, but will probably decide I don't need it.
Speaker 2.
At supermarkets, there are always people trying to sell you things. I normally compare prices of different brands to get the best deal. Sometimes, I use vouchers that I find on the internet or in newspapers. I like to go online to know who is offering the lowest price.
Speaker 3.
At the supermarket, I only buy what I've planned to get. This means that I won't be tempted to add some ice cream even if it looks really good. It doesn't matter how good it looks. If you haven't planned to buy it, don't put it in your basket.
Speaker 4.
Most of the time, especially when there's a sale, it's easy to buy things just because they're on sale. We find ourselves attracted to these discounts and end up buying things that we don't really need.
Speaker 5.
When I'm thinking about buying something and I'm in the shop trying to consider my options, I always avoid the sales assistants. Their job is to persuade you to buy the product. Be a smart shopper and try not to let other people stop you from making your own choices.
All right, so you're going to listen for the second time, but this time I want you to focus on keywords. So I'm going to only talk about 3 years, from speaker 1 to speaker 3. So I provided the answer, but what I want you to do is to focus on the keywords. So I'll play the audio again.
Now turn to part 3. You will hear 5 short extracts in which teenagers are talking about shopping habits. Choose from the list A to G what each speaker says. Use the letters only once. There are 2 extra letters which you do not need to use. You now have 30 seconds to look at part 3. Speaker 1.
Before I buy something, I look at the advantages and disadvantages of buying it. I ask myself why I need it, where I'll put it, and what it's for. If I can't give definite answers to these questions, I may want it, but will probably decide I don't need it.
Okay, so here you can see that the speaker say, I ask myself whether I need it or not need it. So you have the word, ask yourself, really necessary. So the answer here is
Speaker 2.
D.
At supermarkets, there are always people trying to sell you things. I normally compare prices of different brands to get the best deal. Sometimes, I use vouchers that I find on the internet or in newspapers. I like to go online to know who is offering the lowest price.
Okay, for speaker 2, the speaker was saying that looking for the best choice, yeah, but cheaper. But you see the word cheaper here is a B. It is a distractor. Why? Because you have the word online, yeah, online, and it is not being mentioned. But A is the best answer because best bargain, yeah, best choice. So you are looking for cheaper price. A bargain is you are looking for something that is cheaper. Okay, and lastly C, yeah. Speaker 3, sorry.
Speaker 3.
At the supermarket, I only buy what I've planned to get. This means that I won't be tempted to add some ice cream even if it looks really good. It doesn't matter how good it looks. If you haven't planned to buy it, don't put it in your basket.
Speaker 4.
All right, so here, speaker 3 say that he planned, yeah? He planned what he wants to buy. So even if suddenly came up on his mind, he will not buy it. So the word here is impulse, yeah? Because, so here, student, you need to have vocabulary. You need to understand what is impulse buying, yeah? When you impulse buying something, it means that you buy according to your mood. You don't plan, yeah? You don't plan ahead of your budget, all right? So the last part will be part 4. In this part, it is a not completion, right? You are going to listen to a neutral or informal dialogue or interview of 600 to 650 words. So this is the longest audio for this paper. Now, the trick here is different because you no longer get to write A, B, C. Now you have to write one word. Yeah? Candidates complete gap summary text with one word per gap. So there are 10 items. Now, so in this part, there will be monologue or interview with a duration of 3 minutes. So it's quite long. Eh? You then need to fill in 10 sentences. Now, you need to listen for main idea, specific information, attitudes, and opinion. Now, the text type could be talk, presentation, review, or even interview. So you are given 45 seconds to read through the sentences before you listen. Now, think about the information missing in each sentence. Now, here is where you remember if your teacher have taught you about part of speech, noun, verb, adjective. So you need to find the clue so that it will help you to fill in the blank, whether you need a noun, whether you need an adjective. If you know about determiners, then you definitely know what to fill in, right? So next, the information on the page follows the same order or sequence as the information in the listening text. So you don't have to worry. So in this part, it will, for example, from question 22 to question 30, it will be arranged according to the order and not jumbled up. You will not be listening to keyword 30 or 29. Now, you need to write the word that you hear from the recording. So there is no need to change the form of the word. Now, but the surrounding words may be different. Okay? You also need to write one word for each space and check that your answer fits grammatically, whether it's singular or plural, based on your listening, that it makes sense in the complete sentence. Right. Let's look at the text here.
Now turn to part 4. You will hear a student, Azlan, talking about his experience as an exchange student in Italy. For questions 21 to 30, fill in the missing information in each numbered space. Use no more than one word for each space. You now have 1 minute to look at part 4.
So Azlan, you've just returned from an exchange program in Italy. How was it?
It was amazing. It was one of the greatest trips of my life.
How did you know about this program?
It all started when my teacher announced that there would be a student exchange program. We could choose to go either to Italy or France. In the past, I had always ignored these programs, but for some reason, this year, it caught my attention.
So, did you apply straight away?
I think my biggest concern was that I had a limited budget, but I didn't let that stop me. I went ahead with the application and it was successful. My parents were a bit worried about how I would handle life away from home. Of course, I'd never traveled that far before, so I had to buy a new suitcase.
So, tell me more about your trip. What was it like when you got there?
In Rome, once we'd arrived, it was nice to be able to relax and walk around the city in the evening after the long flight. I noticed that the Italians do things differently. Their culture isn't the same as ours. They truly know how to relax and enjoy themselves.
What else did you learn about the people there?
I was impressed by how friendly and polite the people were. My host family introduced me to their friends and family members. Every gathering was a feast of food and laughter. When they discovered that I was a die-hard fan of their famous football club, they organized a trip to the local stadium. It was amazing!
Wow! Did you get to meet any of the players?
Well, we managed to watch the team train, and later I got a really great photo of me with the team captain because my host father knew the players would usually hang out at a nearby restaurant after training. So, we tried our luck, and I couldn't believe it when I saw the team walking in. They were happy for me to take a few shots with them.
Now turn.
All right. So in this part, you can underline, okay, before, usually before the gap. So here, his, okay, you know that the next, what is his? This is possessive, right? Possessive. Now, and then you have So definitely for question 22, you know that it is singular. And also again, Azlan's host family took him to so it should be noun, okay? A singular noun, right? And then Azlan even took a photo with the team captain at So Here, based on your reading, by predicting the text, which is one of the skill of listening, you definitely know that what you're looking for. For example, question 23, you know it's going to be a place. And then for 24, it's also going to be a place. So now, let's look and listen to the text for the last time.
Now turn to part 4. You will hear a student, Azlan, talking about his experience as an exchange student in Italy. For questions 21 to 30, fill in the missing information in each numbered space. Use no more than one word for each space. You now have 1 minute to look at part 4.
So Azlan, you've just returned from an exchange program in Italy. How was it?
It was amazing. It was one of the greatest trips of my life.
How did you know about this program?
It all started when my teacher announced that there would be a student exchange program. We could choose to go either to Italy or France. In the past, I had always ignored these programs, but for some reason this year it caught my attention.
So, did you apply straight away?
I think my biggest concern was that I had a limited budget, but I...
Okay, so here, my biggest concern, so you can see the keyword here, worried, was my limited, okay, limited being too small, okay, other words for limited is being too small. So definitely the answer is budget, yeah? All right, so you, okay, sorry.
Now turn to part 4. Now turn to part 4. You will hear a student, Azlan, talking about his experience as an exchange student in Italy. For questions 21 to 30, fill in the missing information in each numbered space. Use no more than one word for each space. You now have 1 minute to look at part 4.
So Azlan, you've just returned from an exchange program in Italy. How was it?
It was amazing. It was one of the greatest trips of my life.
How did you know about this program?
It all started when my teacher announced that there would be a student exchange program. We could choose to go either to Italy or France. In the past, I had always ignored these programs, but for some reason this year it caught my attention.
So, did you apply straight away?
I think my biggest concern was that I had a limited budget, but I didn't let that stop me. I went ahead with the application and it was successful. My parents were a bit worried about how I would handle life away from home. Of course, I'd never traveled that far before, so I had to buy a new suitcase.
So, tell me more about your trip. What was it like when you got there?
In Rome, once we'd arrived, it was nice to be able to relax and walk around the city in the evening after the long flight. I noticed that the Italians do things differently. Their culture isn't the same as ours.
Okay, so here you can hear that Azlan was talking about the different culture, okay? The culture is a bit different, right, from the rest, okay? So the answer here is because the clue is so it is a different culture.
Truly know how to relax and enjoy themselves.
What else did you learn about the people there?
I was impressed by how friendly and polite the people were. My host family introduced me to their friends and family members. Every gathering was a feast of food and laughter. When they discovered that I was a die-hard fan of their famous football club, they organized a trip to the local stadium. It was amazing.
So a local stadium. So here, nearby stadium, right? The host family took him to the stadium. So the answer is a stadium, right? Not stadiums.
Wow. Did you get to meet any of the players?
Well, we managed to watch the team train. And later, I got a really great photo of me with the team captain because my host father knew the players would usually hang out at a nearby restaurant after training. So, we tried our luck, and I couldn't believe it when I saw the team walking in. They
All right, so there
shots with them.
You can hear the answer just now in a nearby restaurant. Okay, so a restaurant, again, there's a clue for you. So I'm gonna skip the rest of the part. So that comes to the end of my presentation. Yeah? So I hope that all of you have learned something from this presentation, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming SPM. And that's all. Thank you.
Alright, so that's the end of the listening paper part. So now we will open the floor to the audience. If you have any questions or issues to Mr. Kelvin. Alright, so it looks like the explanation and the elaboration by Mr. Kelvin is crystal clear. But here I have a few questions, some of the common questions asked by the students. Alright, so Mr. Kelvin, the first question. What should I do if I'm getting nervous during the listening test or the listening exam?
Okay, thank you for the question. Firstly, thank you for watching. Now, it's common for Malaysian students who are second language learners to experience anxiety when it comes to second language learning. So you have speaking anxiety, listening anxiety, reading anxiety, and writing anxiety. But for listening, it's common because you are not familiar, maybe because of the accent or the pace that could be really fast. Now, another reason could be test anxiety, because you're so nervous, you're overwhelmed by your expectation to score. Yeah, you are worried to make mistake. But here are a few ways for you to actually come up with a coping strategy to at least reduce your listening anxiety. So firstly, the most important thing is to think positively. You have to think that, okay, I can do this. Yeah, this is just a listening test. Number two, focus on your intention. What do you want to do? Yeah, you are very familiar about the content, right? You know the format, so you know that here in this part of the test, you are going to listen for example, part A, you're listening for details, and then you have 3 multiple choice answer, right? The third ways of coping strategy is to breathe in deeply, and then just make sure that you are focusing on the test and the audio, and that's the most important part. So with practice, I think you can overcome that. Right? I hope that the answer will help you in overcoming your anxiety. Right?
Alright. So the second question, what if I do not understand the conversation because it is too hard for me to understand because of the pace and the intonation or the accent used in the video?
All right, thank you for the question. Now, as mentioned just now, it's common that you are unfamiliar with the type of accent, or the pace could be faster than the normal conversation that you have with your friends or with your teachers. But as mentioned in the webinar video, when doing listening tests, you need to focus on identifying keywords, listening for main ideas, okay, and then you have to try to detect signposts. For example, the word prior to this, so it means before this. So you are listening actively. Yeah? So you are not just listening to the sound, the accent, but you are also trying to understand the attitude of the speaker or the opinion. So rise of the intonation could mean something. could mean the person is angry or stressing on the point that is trying to be highlighted in the question. Now, other ways of handling that is to have more practice. You need to listen more to different types of audio, for example from IELTS, and then you have MUET. So these audio can be actually accessed online, for free, right?
Alright, okay. For the next question, question number 3, how would I prepare myself before the exam?
Okay, for listening tests, I would suggest that you have lots and lots of practice. Listening practice means you say, listen to different types of audio, such as news announcement at the airport, for example, and then short conversation. And you can also listen to podcasts or any YouTube audio for listening activity. For teachers, you can download this or just simply play on your Spotify, for example. You can find a lot of listening activity for students to practice their listening skills.
Alright, so question number 4. This is an interesting question. Okay, the question is, what marks should I score in my listening paper if I want to get A+ in my English paper?
Oh, to get an A+. I can't say that you have to score certain marks, like 28. A lot of my students, I would say try to score 20, maybe 26 and above, but that also depends on other papers as well. So the only thing that I can advise you is to score all the papers, but do your best, for each paper. So because each paper carries the same weightage, which is 25%.
Alright, so the last question for today's session. What are the common mistakes committed by the candidates?
Alright, so I can only speak from my observation in my own classroom. What I can say is that my student, when it comes to listening tests, the main problem is when transferring their answer from the question paper to the answer sheet, which is the one where you have to darken or circle, or here is darken, right? So darken. So for example, your answer in the question you answer B, but when you darken it, you choose C. So we will definitely, as examiner, we choose the one that you selected in the answer sheet, and sometimes spelling mistake as well. The most common one is the one where you have to write one word, no more than one word, the last part, which is part 4. Spelling errors, okay, you will not get correct mark for that. Plural, singular of the word, okay, the noun. So you have to listen carefully. They are very strict about this. What else can I think of? Spelling, plural, singular. Sometimes the most common one is homonyms. Sometimes there are certain words that sound the same, but the spelling is different. So you have to be careful about that. Okay, so I think that's all.
Alright, so
Is there any more question from the audience?
yeah, I think that's it. Okay, all 5 questions. Alright, so thank you, Mr. Kelvin, for the answers. And I think that is all for our webinar Kecemerlangan SPM Bahasa Inggeris Negeri Sarawak 2023. But before we end our session, we would like to remind all students, all SPM candidates, to keep on doing your revision, keep up improving yourself, and do not forget to flip your textbook or your revision books even during the holiday. We also like to thank JPN Sarawak and PPD Padawan for organizing such a beneficial webinar for our SPM candidates. Besides that, we also like to thank the schools involved: SMK Sungai Maung, SMK Sri Matang, SMK Jalan Arang, SMK Agama Show, Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching Utara, and Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching. But before we end our session, we also would like to invite the team behind the scenes that has worked with us, all the teachers that are involved in the webinar. so that it can become a success. Okay, first we would like to invite Mr. Braxton Lee, Pegawai SIC Plus Bahasa PPD Padawan. Next, Mr. Muhammad Khairul Zuhri, Penolong Pegawai Teknologi Maklumat PPD Padawan. Okay, next, Encik Awang Zulkifli, Juruteknik Komputer PPD Padawan. And lastly, Encik Muhammad Razif, Juruteknik Komputer PPD Padawan also. So, I think that's it. Anything, Kelvin?
All the best to all the SPM 2023 candidates, and to all the teachers, all the best too. Right? Is there anything else from Mr. Braxton?
Okay, all the best to all the SPM candidate 2023. We wish you good luck. Okay, remember to do your revision even during the holiday. Yeah. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
From the three guys.
Okay, good luck. Good luck.
Alright, so that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.